that deserves our careful attention. And it is this: awakening is not merely a shift in understanding, not simply a change in belief or perspective, not just an intellectual realization about the nature of reality. No, genuine spiritual awakening involves the body, the physical organism, in ways that are quite unmistakable, often rather uncomfortable, and sometimes genuinely alarming if one does not understand what is occurring. You see, we have been educated to think of spirituality as something that happens exclusively in the realm of the mind or the soul, something quite separate from the physical body. The body, we are told, is merely the vessel, the container, the temporary housing for consciousness. Spiritual work, according to this view, concerns itself with thoughts, beliefs, realizations, states of consciousness, while the body simply carries on with its biological functions, largely irrelevant to the spiritual process. But this is a profound misunderstanding, one that stems from the very dualism that spiritual awakening itself dissolves. The truth is that you are not a soul or a consciousness inhabiting a body. You are a psychophysical organism, a unified field of awareness and sensation, thought and feeling, mind and matter. And when a transformation occurs at the level of consciousness, when awakening happens, the body does not simply remain unchanged, passively hosting a new understanding. The body itself undergoes transformation, sometimes subtle, sometimes dramatic, but always significant. Now, what precisely happens to the body during spiritual awakening? Well, let me begin with something that nearly everyone who undergoes this process experiences: a kind of energetic reorganization, a shift in the way energy moves through the physical organism. You may feel sensations of heat or cold moving through your body in waves. You may experience tingling, vibration, a sense of electricity running along your spine or through your limbs. You may feel pressure in particular areas, especially around the head, the heart, the solar plexus. These are not imaginary sensations, not psychosomatic symptoms in the dismissive sense of that term. They are the felt experience of actual changes occurring in your nervous system, your endocrine system, your entire energetic structure. The ancient traditions understood this quite well. They spoke of kundalini, of chi, of prana, of the subtle body and its channels through which life energy flows. And while the language they used was metaphorical, poetic, the phenomena they were describing are quite real, quite physical, quite capable of being felt and observed. What is happening, in essence, is this: the body is learning to process and conduct a higher intensity of awareness, a more refined quality of consciousness. It is rather like upgrading the electrical system in an old house to accommodate more powerful equipment. The wiring must be rewired, so to speak. The circuits must be strengthened. The capacity must be increased. And this process of rewiring, of upgrading, it produces sensations, sometimes intense ones. Moreover, as consciousness refines, as awareness becomes more acute, you often become far more sensitive to everything. Foods that you previously consumed without difficulty may suddenly cause discomfort or illness. Your body may develop strong aversions to substances that dull consciousness: alcohol, certain medications, highly processed foods. You may find that you require less food overall, or that your dietary preferences shift dramatically towards simpler, more vital, more natural sustenance. This is not arbitrary. This is your organism recognizing that it is being asked to maintain a higher level of functioning, a greater degree of sensitivity, and therefore it becomes more selective about what it will accept. What serves this heightened state, and what interferes with it? The body develops a kind of wisdom, a discrimination that operates beneath the level of intellectual decision-making. You do not decide to dislike certain foods or substances. Your body simply rejects them, and you feel the rejection as nausea, headache, fatigue, or simple aversion. Sleep patterns often change significantly during awakening. You may find that you need far less sleep than you once did, or you may go through periods where you require enormous amounts of rest. You may wake frequently during the night, not from anxiety or disturbance, but from an excess of energy that makes deep sleep difficult to sustain. Or you may experience the opposite, a profound exhaustion, a need to withdraw from activity and simply allow the body to process the transformation that is occurring. Dreams often become more vivid, more significant, more clearly remembered. This is because the boundary between waking consciousness and sleeping consciousness becomes more permeable during awakening. You are not simply turning off consciousness when you sleep and turning it back on when you wake. Consciousness is continuous, and you are becoming aware of it in states where previously you were oblivious. Your dreams may carry profound insights, clear guidance, symbolic communications from the deeper levels of your being. The breath, that most fundamental of bodily functions, often transforms as well. You may notice that your breathing becomes deeper, slower, more deliberate, without any conscious effort to make it so. Or you may experience periods where the breath becomes very rapid, almost panting, particularly during moments of intense realization or energetic release. The breath, you see, is intimately connected to the state of consciousness. It is not merely a mechanical function for delivering oxygen to the blood. It is a bridge between the conscious and unconscious, between the voluntary and involuntary, between the mind and the body. There are also often unusual physical sensations in specific areas of the body. Many people report pressure or activity at the crown of the head, sometimes described as a feeling of something opening, expanding, or a tingling or buzzing sensation. This corresponds to what the traditions call the crown chakra, the point at which individual consciousness opens to universal consciousness. Whether you believe in chakras as literal energy centers or understand them as useful metaphors, the sensations are quite real and quite common during awakening. Similarly, the heart area often becomes a focus of intense sensation. You may feel expansion, warmth, pressure, or even pain in the chest. This is not cardiac distress, though it can certainly be alarming if you do not understand what it is. It is the heart center opening, expanding its capacity for love, for compassion, for connection. The physical heart and the emotional spiritual heart are not separate things. They are two aspects of the same reality, and when one transforms, the other transforms as well. The eyes often change in noticeable ways. Many people report that their vision becomes clearer, sharper, more vivid, colors appear more saturated, more beautiful, light seems more luminous. This is not a change in the optical apparatus itself, though sometimes even that changes. It is a change in the quality of seeing, in the way consciousness meets the visual field. You are seeing with less mental filtering, less conceptual overlay, more direct perception. Some people also report that their eyes become more sensitive to light, particularly to artificial lighting or screens. This can be inconvenient in our modern world of constant illumination, but it is simply a reflection of the overall increase in sensitivity that accompanies awakening. The organism is recalibrating to a more natural, more subtle, more refined way of functioning. Emotions may become far more intense during the awakening process, or they may become far more subtle. You might find yourself crying more easily, laughing more freely, feeling joy and sorrow with an intensity you have never experienced before. This is not emotional instability, though it may be mistaken for such. This is the heart becoming permeable, the armor of protection and numbness dissolving, the full range of human feeling being restored after years of suppression and control. Alternatively, some people experience emotions becoming far more quiet, more spacious, less overwhelming. The dramatic peaks and valleys begin to smooth out. This is not numbness, though it may superficially resemble it. This is equanimity, the ability to feel everything without being controlled by feeling. to allow emotions to arise and pass without being swept away by them. The voice often changes as well. It may become deeper, more resonant, more naturally authoritative without any attempt to make it so, or it may become softer, gentler, more melodic. This is because the voice is an expression of consciousness, and as consciousness transforms, the voice naturally transforms with it. You are speaking from a different place within yourself, from a deeper center, from a more authentic source, and this is audible to those who listen carefully. Many people report changes in their sense of time during awakening. Time may seem to slow down dramatically so that moments become vast, spacious, rich with detail and presence. Or time may seem to accelerate, with days and weeks passing in what feels like moments. This is not merely a psychological effect. This is consciousness shifting its relationship to the temporal dimension, experiencing time directly rather than through the filter of mental abstraction and anticipation. The sense of physical boundaries often becomes more fluid during awakening. You may feel as though your body extends beyond your skin, as though you can feel the space around you, the energy field that surrounds you. Or you may experience moments where the boundary between self and environment seems to dissolve entirely, where you are not sure where your body ends and the world begins. This is not hallucination. This is a more accurate perception of reality, a recognition that the skin is not actually a firm boundary between inside and outside, but rather a permeable membrane, an interface, a place of exchange and continuity. There can also be periods of physical discomfort or even illness during awakening. Old traumas stored in the body may surface to be released. Emotional patterns that have been held in the tissues may come up for processing. You may experience pain, tension, fatigue, or various symptoms that have no apparent physical cause, and for which medical examination reveals no pathology. This is what some traditions call a healing crisis, a necessary purification, a clearing out of accumulated debris to make room for the new way of being. It is crucial to understand that these symptoms, while real and sometimes distressing, are not signs that something is wrong. They are signs that something is changing, that transformation is occurring, that the body is adapting to a new mode of functioning. The temptation, of course, is to resist these symptoms, to try to make them go away, to medicate them or suppress them or interpret them as illness requiring treatment. But often, the wisest response is simply to allow them, to be with them, to give the body the rest and the space it needs to process what is happening. This is not to say that you should never seek medical attention, or that all physical symptoms during awakening are purely spiritual. Use common sense. If something is seriously wrong, get it checked. But also consider the possibility that your body is simply recalibrating, rewiring, transforming, and that this process may produce sensations and symptoms that are temporary and ultimately beneficial. The relationship to physical pleasure and pain often shifts during awakening as well. You may find that you are far more present to physical sensation, far more capable of actually feeling the body in its full vividness and intensity. A simple meal becomes a feast of flavors. A warm bath becomes an exquisite pleasure. The feeling of sunlight on your skin becomes almost overwhelming in its beauty. At the same time, you may become far more sensitive to physical discomfort or pain, not in the sense of suffering more from it, but in the sense of being more acutely aware of it. The difference is crucial. Before awakening, pain is usually accompanied by enormous amounts of mental resistance, fear, story-making, projection into the future. During and after awakening, pain is simply sensation, intensely felt but not elaborated upon, not resisted, not made into something more than it is. Sexual energy often undergoes significant transformation during spiritual awakening. For some people, sexual desire diminishes or disappears for a period as the energy that was flowing into sexual expression is redirected toward the process of transformation. For others, sexual energy becomes far more intense but also more refined, more conscious, more capable of being directed and used for purposes beyond mere physical gratification. The traditions speak of transmuting sexual energy, of raising it up the spine, of using it as fuel for spiritual development. And while this can be misunderstood and practiced in unhealthy ways, there is genuine wisdom here. Sexual energy is life energy, creative energy, the most powerful force in the physical organism. And during awakening, this energy is often reorganized, refined, put to use in new ways. Movement and gesture often become more graceful, more fluid, more naturally coordinated during awakening. This is not the result of practice or training, though these may help. This is the result of consciousness moving through the body more freely, less obstructed by tension and resistance and self-consciousness. You move from your center rather than from your head. You inhabit your body more fully rather than treating it as a tool to be operated from a distance. Some people report spontaneous movements occurring during meditation or quiet contemplation, kriyas as they are called in the yogic tradition. The body may shake, twist, stretch, make sounds, perform mudras or symbolic gestures, all without any conscious volition. This can be quite startling if you do not know it is a natural part of the process. These movements are the body's way of releasing stored tension, processing blocked energy, reorganizing itself for the new way of being. The immune system often strengthens during awakening. Old chronic conditions may clear up. Illnesses that you have lived with for years may suddenly resolve. This is not magic or miraculous healing in the supernatural sense. This is simply the body functioning more efficiently when consciousness is no longer creating constant stress and resistance, when the organism is allowed to operate according to its own wisdom rather than being constantly overridden by mental tension and emotional suppression. However, there can also be temporary periods where the immune system seems to be compromised, where you catch every passing illness, where you feel weak and vulnerable. This, too, can be part of the process, a kind of purification where the body is clearing out accumulated toxins and patterns, and during this clearing, it is temporarily more susceptible to illness. Patience and self-care are important during such periods. The sense of being grounded in the body often increases dramatically during awakening. Before awakening, many people live almost entirely in their heads, barely aware of the body except when it demands attention through hunger, pain, or fatigue. After awakening, there is a natural descent into the body, a coming home to physical sensation, a recognition that consciousness is not located in the head, but is distributed throughout the entire organism, indeed throughout the entire field of experience. This grounding brings with it a sense of stability, presence, realness that may have been lacking before. You feel more here, more solid, more genuinely present in your own life. Paradoxically, this grounding in the body often accompanies the realization that you are not the body, that your essential nature is consciousness itself rather than the physical form. But this is not a contradiction. It is the natural result of truly inhabiting the body rather than using it as a mere vehicle. Aging itself may appear to slow during awakening, or at least the experience of aging may transform. This is not to suggest that awakening makes you physically immortal, or reverses the biological clock in some magical way. But there is often a vitality, a youthfulness, an aliveness that persists regardless of chronological age. This is because you are living from your essential being rather than from identification with the aging body, and this shift in identification actually affects how the body functions and maintains itself. What all of these physical changes point to is a fundamental truth. You are not a ghost in a machine, not a soul trapped in flesh, not a consciousness observing from behind the eyes. You are an embodied awareness, a conscious body, a unified field of being that includes both the physical and the transcendent, both the temporal and the eternal. And when awakening occurs, When you recognize your true nature, the body naturally reflects this recognition, transforms in response to it, reorganizes itself to accommodate the new understanding. The body, you see, is not separate from consciousness. It is consciousness in a particular form, consciousness manifesting as flesh and bone, blood and breath, sensation and movement. And when consciousness awakens to itself, when it recognizes what it truly is, the physical form through which it is expressing naturally changes to align with this recognition. This is why genuine spiritual awakening always involves the body, always produces physical effects, always manifests as transformation of the entire organism, and not merely as a change in belief or understanding. You cannot awaken while leaving the body behind. The body must come along for the journey, must participate in the transformation, must itself be enlightened, liberated, recognized as sacred. So if you are experiencing unusual physical sensations during your spiritual journey, if your body seems to be changing in ways that are strange or uncomfortable or simply different from what you knew before, do not be alarmed. This is natural. This is as it should be. Your body is waking up along with your consciousness, reorganizing itself to accommodate a new way of being, transforming itself to embody the truth that you are coming to know. Be patient with the process. Give your body the rest it needs, the nourishment it requires, the gentle attention it deserves. Listen to its wisdom,